Welcome to Winging It. We're doing deck upgrades today in Arkham Horror the card game. This is Amanda and Silas going into the Maelstrom, the final scenario of the Innsmouth Conspiracy. I'm getting the pack tomorrow, so I'm very, very excited to play that. I have 13 XP to spend for both of them. So the very priority upgrade for Silas, upgrade that I wanted to get a long time ago, but it just hasn't, been in the cards, is to upgrade the Lucky into Lucky level 3. So of course the difference here is that it costs nothing. You can get +3 to your skill test, and you can give it to somebody else, and that investigator draws a card. So super strong, will just help, as if Amanda actually needs help passing tests. But, if she ends up on some, really bad willpower or, treachery that she hasn't committed Eye of Truth to, there's something that, can help out. So it's also kind of some clue tech for Silas. All right, so that is 6 of his XP. Now, I am going to go ahead and drop my 2 copies of Daring. Daring is an interesting one, and if you watch the very first video when I put this in and how I've been playing it through the entire campaign, is that I'm playing it as if it was a persistent effect. You got the card draw no matter what. And there was a reason why the community had largely accepted that that was the way that the card worked. But recently a comment on ArkhamDb has purported a ruling from MJ about this. It's not been confirmed, but it does make sense that the effect is not meant to be persistent, which does mean that there's a bit of weirdness about how the card works and the timing, but at the end of the day, it does make sense that the intent was that you would not get the card draw if you pull it back. The retaliate and the alert would still apply. There's no reason that wouldn't come off. So it's lost its value a little bit. I'm pulling it out of the deck, but honestly, I probably would have anyway. It wasn't like doing a lot of work for me anyway. Once you get Unrelenting, I don't know, it seems like that takes the place of what Daring was doing anyway, at least in Silas. So not a big loss there, but I did want to clarify that is now, that's a ruling. That's not an official ruling, but definitely accepting. I mean, it's as official as what we had before. All right, so in its place, I'm going to go ahead and take the level 2 Defiance. This one does work. We know that you can pull it back and you still get the ignore. So you commit this to a test and you pull a cultist token, you can pull it back and the ignore still ignores the token. So you can just commit this, once a turn, and it's really good for especially since in coming up in this Into the Maelstrom, I know that the cultist tokens are really, really nasty. And so, definitely wanting to cancel those would be good. So a lot of people find this as an early upgrade in Silas. I think it's cool. I think it's a neat card. The effect is really powerful, but I just always have other priorities that are more important to me. And I don't really struggle with passing tests in the kind of builds that I do with Silas. So, I mean, it's cool. It's flashy. It's going to be really good, I think, for this last scenario. But I do see it as more of an in-game kind of luxury upgrade. Finally, speaking of luxury upgrades, I'm going to go ahead and take the Will to Survive. Which is fast, play only during your turn. Until the end of your turn, do not reveal chaos tokens for any skill tests you perform. Obviously really good. It's not particularly synergistic with Silas. It's just a good card, and I really like it. And, you can just have that one really power turn where you just, crush everything. You don't have to worry. You just, do all your damage, get all your clues, get your quick thinkings to go off, all that kind of good stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and replace Meat Cleaver, which may be a bit weird because it's bringing us down to just 3 weapons, which is just a chainsaw, 2 chainsaws, and a sea change harpoon. But, what I've noticed is it's not really the way I normally play Silas, but it's just kind of the way it's worked out with Amanda, is that he's kind of playing a supporting role while Amanda does all the real work. And I found that, even if I have the Meat Cleaver in hand, I'm not really that inclined to play it because I know I'm going to override it with a chainsaw. And there's enough draw here with things like, Unrelenting and with Eureka that I feel like I can get it out if I need to. So and I can just sit there and draw cards until I find it. Last scenario, he didn't play a weapon for like the whole scenario. And so, I don't know, I just feel like, it might be a little bit, Meat Cleaver is certainly a good weapon, but I just feel like, it's hard to know what else I would cut in this deck. A lot of really good cards, so I'm just going to cut the Meat Cleaver, and we'll see how it goes. But I'm not too worried. The Brute Force is there. Amanda can, commit the upgraded Vicious Blows to things. And, of course, she has her Time 1 brand when she gets set up with that. So, anyway, that's Silas. Let's go take a look at Amanda. Okay, and now looking at Amanda, one of my priority upgrades for her 13 XP is to take 5 of that and use it to get another Eye of Truth. It's obviously a very strong card. Could put it under her for the 4 icons, and then of course commit it, and you just have 4 icons every time that treachery comes up. So very, very strong. I'm going to go ahead and replace both of my Promise of Powers because that's another 4 icon card, and while Promise of Power is very strong, I don't like the volatility of the bag, even putting 1 curse token. It's okay, but if I don't have to, I'd rather not. That leaves me 1 extra slot. Card slot. I'm going to go ahead and put in a level 2 leadership. So this is a wild icon. She can put it under her. Every time she passes a test, she gets 2 resources, or she can commit it to Silas, and he will get an extra wild and willpower icon to the test. So either 3 willpower or 2 wilds. And if he passes, then he gets 2 resources as well. So very strong card there. This should help with her economy. She's got a deck where, like, the first time through, it can be very, very expensive. And then after that, she just doesn't really know what to do with all her resources. But the expense of this deck has been kind of an issue through the campaign of just being able to get up, as quickly as I can. So, all right. Anyway, we have, that is our first 6 XP. We're going to go ahead and spend, or actually 7 XP. We're going to spend 2 XP to take 2 copies of Forewarned. So this is just when you draw a non-weakness treachery card, place one of your clues in your location, then cancel that card's revelation effect. This is just a good, it's kind of like a ward of protection, except you have to drop a clue, but she has no problem getting clues, so not a big deal to drop a clue, and we can, cancel a really, really nasty treachery. So we're going to go ahead and take out the overpowers. I don't really think we need the overpowers in this deck. The overpowers are nice for boosting for combat, but they're only for that use since they end up sitting in my hand a lot. I'd rather have a lot more generically useful icons in the deck. Obviously, I've got the perceptions and the deductions, and those are always going to be useful because you can almost always investigate. But the overpower has proven to be just a little bit too much of a niche. It's good, in the early builds, but with the Time 1 brand and the upgraded Vicious Blow, and then just momentum and other things, I think she's pretty good off. She doesn't really need the overpower. I will say in the 4-player campaign when I played a very similar deck, I ended up with 1 upgraded overpower, and actually that felt pretty nice. I could have done that instead of taking the leadership, but I just really wanted to address her resources. All right, so finally, and then for my last 4 XP, we're going to spend. We're going to just get 2 upgraded deductions here. In 2-handed, you don't a lot of times need to get 3 clues at one point, at one time. But for Amanda especially, just having that extra icon is really, really nice. You put it under her and she's investigating at a 4. It's a lot better than a 3. Yes, and it's a 25% increase, I suppose. And then it just makes it a lot easier to actually pass the test, even if you're not trying to succeed by enough to get all the clues. So it becomes a lot easier to put a deduction level 2 under her than a deduction level 0. So, all right, that's our 2 decks. Let's go play Into the Maelstrom.